Hi, and welcome to Money Matters. My name is David Holcomb. I'm the Director of Finance and Operations at JVC Northwest. Kate Stinson and I are working on this Money Matters presentation together. We've divided it into 3 pre-recorded sessions, and I'll be doing the first of those 2, and then Kate will be doing the third. And then we'll be together on a live Q&A with all of you, give you a chance to ask further questions, and we can have dialogue together. So you've probably been wondering how all the finances work with the year of service through JVC Northwest. Will I have enough to eat? Will the bills get paid? And how? What does it mean to live on $100 per month? What is a living allowance anyway? And how will all this work? So in Money Matters, we're going to try to answer these questions and more. So let's get started. So the first thing that I want to cover is just an overview of the cash flow. How does it work? How does money get from AmeriCorps to JVC Northwest to each of your communities? And so that's what we're going to talk about first. So this slide has a lot going on. So we're going to start at the top, and we're going to work our way counterclockwise around. So at the top is JVC Northwest. And so each month on the 15th of the month, or a day earlier if the 15th is on a weekend or a holiday, JVC Northwest will deposit funds directly into the community account of your JV community, as well as directly into your individual JV bank account. And so as far as how much goes into each of those accounts, we'll talk about that in our next session when we talk about budgets, and maybe a little bit later in this session as well. But this will happen each month. There will be a direct deposit from JVC Northwest into those 2 accounts. I should say each month except for August, which is an exception, and we'll talk about that very soon. So the amount that goes into your individual or your personal JV account includes your $100 a month stipend, money for transportation, which will vary depending on your locale, and then if you're an AmeriCorps member, it will also include contingency funds. So funds that you need to save to cover things like copay for a doctor's visit or things like that. So that will be for the individual JV bank accounts. There will also be money that will go into the community account. And the community account, this money will be divided into 2 things really. So there's a portion that will be used to pay the bills of your community. So the electric bill, phone bill, gas or heating bill, purchase of your food, house, yard supplies, emergency kit, year-end cleaning, all these kinds of things, which are part of each community's budget, will be paid out of the funds that come from JVC Northwest into your community account. So the other piece of the money coming into the community account will then actually go back to JVC Northwest to pay for housing fees and retreat fees. So each community doesn't actually pay the landlord directly. Instead, JVC Northwest does that. We pay the landlords, but we collect the housing fees from each community to do so. So that is a very quick overview of the cash flow. Now, August is a little bit different, and it's really different in 2 specific ways. So first, the money that comes down normally will come as direct deposits into the community bank account and the personal bank account, will actually come in the form of a check. So sometime between the 7th and the 11th of August, each communities will receive a packet in the mail with checks along with some other things. Then these checks will pay for your August living allowances. And if any of you have already submitted travel reimbursements for any travel expenses that we were going to cover in getting you to your locale, then we'll have that to you as well. And so that's one way that August will be different. It will be different because it's not coming as a direct deposit, but it's coming in the form of an actual physical check. The second thing that's different, when we do the direct deposits, the amount going into the community account and the amount going into your personal account is already divided out. And that, again, that's going to be based on each community's budget. But in August, it's just one check. And so each of you individually and collectively as a community will need to determine out of that check how much needs to be in the community bank account and how much needs to be in the personal bank account. In an ideal world, you'll be able to go to the bank when you're setting up these accounts with your checks, and the bank will cooperate, and they'll take that check and they'll put part of it into the community account and part of it into the personal account. That might not work so easily at some places, so you might have to transfer money in a variety of ways in August to get the right amounts here according to your budget. But then it's the same thing. Your personal account, out of that, you've got your $100 stipend, you've got money for transportation and contingencies, and the community bank account will be used to pay those monthly expenses, which include things like utilities and food, and then also later in August to pay back to JVC Northwest the housing fees and the retreat fees. Now, we've mentioned the term living allowance, so let me just give you a little highlight of what the living allowance is. Again, this is a specific example for someone who is an AmeriCorps member living in Oregon. And so it's going to vary from state to state. And for those of you, a few of you who are independent placements, it's going to vary significantly too. But for the majority of you who are AmeriCorps, this will apply. So the living allowance for the year is $14,279. If you are a 12-month JV, divide that into 12, and so each month the gross pay would be $1,189.92. In Oregon, most likely the amount that will be withheld for federal and state withholding and taxes will be a little over $256, and that leaves a little over $933 that you would receive each month. If you're a 10-month JV, then this will be divided by 10 instead of 12, so that would vary, or 11-month as well, same thing. But in general, if you're a 12-month AmeriCorps Oregon JV, this is the amount that you would receive. And so this amount, part of it will go into your community account, and part of it will go into your individual account. And so here is just a snapshot of one of the Portland, I think it's one of the Portland House's budgets, which shows a breakdown of this. So this top section, we're not going to look at this in detail, but the top section is the amount that goes to the community account, $645. The bottom is the amount that goes to the individual account, $288. If you add those two up, it's $933. Now, one thing I want to highlight here, you will be able to check your monthly pay stubs. You will be able to get your annual tax document, and you'll be able to set up your direct deposit information for your individual and community account through a portal called eSelf-Serve. So this is connected to our payroll. You should have already received an invitation to eSelf-Serve in your email. So check your inbox if you haven't seen it already. You might need to check your junk mail folder as well. But I want to strongly encourage you to go ahead and set up this account. And then we will also, through the bookkeepers, we will walk you through how to do the direct deposit information later in the month after you get your bank account set up. So again, it's eselfserve.com. So take a look in your email for that invitation. Now, I want to clarify a few terms that we've used so far, and maybe some that we haven't used but we'll use in our next session, just to give you a few more ideas of things you need to know. So, bookkeepers. Each JV community will have 2 bookkeepers who will monitor your community spending, they'll pay bills on time, they'll report back to JVC Northwest about the monthly cost of your community. And so these 2 bookkeepers are chosen by your community, and it's through the bookkeepers actually that we're able to put together the budgets for the following year. So the budgets for your community for this year are based on the information that bookkeepers from last year fed to us about how much expenses there were in different categories for each community. So the bookkeepers have a really important role to play. So they're responsible for keeping accurate financial records, making timely deposits of any income, paying community bills, reporting issues to JVC Northwest if there are troubles, and really communicating well with all community mates about the community's financial situation. And so it's the bookkeepers who will be the ones who will be in dialogue with me and with Sandy, who's the assistant on the business team, just when you have questions and concerns. So it's the bookkeepers who are that channel of communication. All right, the community bank account. So as soon as you're able, you will go to the bank and set up this community account. So the community account is the fund. This is for the use of the JV's collective use. So the money is not to be spent on any individual purposes, but the community is responsible to maintain this account and pay all community bills from this account. And it's based on this account that you'll send back a financial report to the office. So we'll have an idea of how things are going and can help as needed. Contingency. We've talked about contingency funds. This is money reserved for things like medical copays and deductibles, any kind of emergencies or unexpected situations that come up. For example, your utilities might be, as a community, might be really high in one month compared to others. And so you might draw on your contingency savings, each individual, to contribute towards the community for that purpose. So for independent JVs and independent placements, you don't have contingency funds. Instead, if you have a doctor's visit, for example, that requires a copay, you just submit that receipt to us in the office and we pay that on your behalf. Emergency supplies. In your community folder, you'll find a booklet from the American Red Cross detailing ways to prepare for disasters like earthquakes, floods, and wildfires, not flowers, wildfires. So the booklet has a list of what you should include in your emergency kit. So early on in your time in your community, you should take stock of your community's emergency supplies and purchase what needs to be added to that. The housing fee, we mentioned this earlier. So JVs serve in very diverse locales, some in remote areas, some in cities, and so the actual rents vary significantly, as do the cost of other things. And so we want to encourage JVs to serve where they feel called, and for partner agencies to be matched with a JV who is the best fit for their needs. So we don't want the cost of housing to dictate placement decisions. So all JVs will pay the same housing fee regardless of where you're living. And so for the year, that's $6,060. So if you're a 12-month JV, that breaks out to $505 per month. And so AmeriCorps members will pay this from your living allowance. So this is part of the money that every month goes back from the community account back to JVC Northwest is this amount of $505 per AmeriCorps JV. And we use that to cover rents and repairs and deposits, cleaning, and other expenses that related to housing across the organization. The monthly income and living allowance. So living allowance is a specific term for the money JVC Northwest puts in your bank account each month if you're an AmeriCorps member. And if you're an independent placement, you receive a monthly deposit to pay your basic costs plus the $100 a month personal income. And so again, JVC Northwest, we pay your medical copays. If you're an independent placement, we also pay your housing and retreat fees. $100 stipend. This is for your personal or discretionary spending. So it's your money to live on for the month. Toothpaste, shampoo, coffee shops, travel, phone bills, a new jacket, whatever it might be. This is the money that you have to live on. Retreat fee. So during the year, you'll have a variety of JVC Northwest retreats. We pay for these partially through our AmeriCorps grant, but we also chip in to pay for ports as well. So the placement agencies pay a portion, JVC Northwest pays a portion, and we ask JVs to pay a portion. So each month, for the first 10 months, each JV will contribute back $8 to JVC Northwest, which goes to support the retreats. And we'll save utilities for another point. And that brings to an end our time with the first session of Money Matters.